Hey everybody, this is the new RX 480, the top tier graphics card in the new RX 400 lineup from AMD. All the new graphics cards, the 460, 470 and this 480, are all based on the new Polaris architecture, promising cheap and fast gaming at under £200. The model I have is from Gigabyte, the G1 Gaming, with the pretty cool design on the front. On the front it has this badge for VR, because this can run VR if you have a headset, which is another £800. There's an RGB spectrum, which means you can change the lights on the fucking graphics card. I don't know why. Wind Force, which is some cool fans that they have on there, and OC mode, which means you can overclock it. On the back is pretty much the same story, with, you know, all the cool bullshit about the lights and the fans. How to unbox it. Now, there's not much in the way of arrows or any kind of labeling. It's not very good packaging from Gigabyte. They're losing points on that. There are these two flaps, and that's about it. So it looks like something slides out. Oh shit! Fucking hell, this is sick. This is a nice. I take back what I said about Gigabyte. This is a premium unboxing. Oh fuck yeah! Easy graphics card and its anti-static bag. Underneath, disc, don't need that. Quick start guide, don't need that. And here is the graphics card with fans. The logo, which will light up when we will get the logo, which will light up. We'll see that in a bit. The back plate, metal, and all the connectors here with its own little fucking plastic covering. Gigabyte, don't fuck about here. Everything has a plastic.
Now to test it in some games. First we have The Witcher 3, a resource heavy game. However, the RX 480 managed 50 frames a second on Ultra with no hairworks, although the 1060 managed 57 a second on the same settings, bearing in mind it is more expensive. We also have Fallout 4, which has had time to age after its 2015 release with updates and bug fixes. So the RX 480 managed 101 frames a second on max settings, and the GTX 1060 a bit higher with 105 frames a second on the same settings. Next is Doom, which is very much a hardcore game in every way, especially in graphics. But even in nightmare graphics quality, the RX 480 managed 120 frames a second on the new Vulkan API, and on the same API the GTX 1060 managed only 104 frames a second. Next we have GTA 5, which isn't hard to run on most PCs, but can tax the GPU in high graphics settings. At very high, the RX 480 managed 45 frames a second, and the GTX 1060 managed 60 frames a second. Finally, we have the popular sandbox Arma 3, which is quite CPU intensive actually. At ultra settings, the RX 480 managed 55 frames a second, and the GTX 1060 72 frames a second. At idle load, the RX 480 is quite comfortable at 39 degrees Celsius, as is the 1060 at 29 degrees Celsius. Despite Gigabyte's cooling efforts with custom fans and a custom PCB, the RX 480 ran at 81 degrees Celsius under load. And the GTX 1060 ran a bit cooler at 71 degrees Celsius. At idle, both cards drew 70 to 80 watts of power, but under load, the RX 480 drew 296 watts and the 1060 drew 264 watts. In conclusion, although the RX 480 underperforms in some games compared to its Nvidia rival, the GTX 1060 is a bit more expensive than the RX 480, so if you can get a good deal on an RX 480, I couldn't recommend it enough.